Hello everybody. I'm Brenda at Handwork Maniac, and this is a channel about cross stitch, which is a type of embroidery. Okay, so I'm going to start off with some questions I had from viewers, which led me to do some more research. So I learned some stuff and some experiences I had myself. I had someone ask me about, and it was on Instagram, and I'm sorry I didn't look up her name. She was having problems getting her, she had an Elan lap stand just like mine. If you want to see my video about all about where I stitch and all the tools I use, including how I use my lap stand, that would be video number 19. If you want to hear everything there is to know about my Elan lap stand, that would be video number 19. It's the Elan, E-L-A-N lap stand from Artisan Designs. She couldn't get her Q-snaps to stay in her tight. She'd tighten it down and then they would just be all loose. So I was trying to problem solve with her across Instagram and coming up with different ideas. And about that same time, as you can, I don't know if you can see it or not, my lap stand has a piece of cork right here. And if I take the adapter off, and a piece of cork on top. And not too long ago, this bottom piece, my lap stand is, I think I bought it around 2007, 2008. Might have been 2005, I don't know. So my lap stand's getting a little old. And this bottom piece of cork had fallen off. It had fallen off a couple of times because it's got sticky stuff on the back, and I would just stick it back on there. And then one time it fell off somewhere, I think when I went to Bear Lake and back, and it was lost. I didn't know where it was. So I didn't have that piece of cork on the bottom. So I was putting my Q-snaps in, and I already replaced the cork on the bottom. I should have made a video for you before I replaced the cork. But without that cork on the bottom, when I put my Q-snap in, let me put the adapter back on. This is an adapter that comes with the Elan lap stand. You get 2 of them. When I'm using Q-snaps, I only put one on the top. I don't put the bottom one on. Only time I have 2 of them on, the bottom and the top, is if I'm using stretcher bars. So I'm going to put my Q-snaps in here. I have rotated this clip. Hard to see because I've got felt on here too that's a light color. There we go. I have rotated this clip around quite a ways so that this clamp comes down on the fabric, not on the plastic clip. It will be on the plastic on the bottom, but it won't be on the plastic on the top. So I'm just going to stick that in there. I'm going to tighten down this top. In fact, I'm putting it on sideways. I'll tighten down that top knob really tight, because I do not like it when my Q-snap moves, and my Q-snap needs to be in there tight. What I noticed was, without the cork on the bottom, this clamp, see, it only has a little bit of space left before the clamp comes all the way together. Without that piece of cork on the bottom, I was trying to tighten up my Q-snap, and it was still loose, and I couldn't get it any tighter. And I all of a sudden realized that without that little piece of cork on the bottom with that little extra space, my clamp had come all the way together. There is no more tightening to do because the 2 pieces of wood have already come as close together as they're going to get. So without that little piece of cork on the bottom, the Q-snaps were just loose in there and I couldn't make it any tighter. So that piece of cork actually provides a little bit of more what do you call that, shim in there on the bottom, a little bit of more space in there so that there's not as much space in there and the Q-snap fits in just perfectly and it can tighten down on it without coming all the way together. I hope that made sense. I finally ordered some more cork and replaced it, but in the meantime I had this piece of Warm and Natural that I had just folded up, a piece of Warm and Natural, and I had it stuffed down in there and then put my Q-snaps in, and that worked. So if yours didn't come with cork, or maybe your cork is missing, a piece of thick felt or something under there would help take up some space so that it will come down tight on your Q-snaps. The other thing I wondered is, my daughters have some off-brand Q-snaps, and I don't know if they're the same diameter. They might be a little bit smaller. They also have a little bit of a lip on the clip. The clip has a little bit of a lip on it right here on their off-brand ones. I've never tried that in my lap stand, but I can see how that would cause a problem. So if you still can't get your Q-snap to be tight, I wondered if you have the off-brand Q-snaps, if that would make a difference. These are the brand name Q-snaps that I use. All right, I hope that answered that question. It was hard to explain over messaging back and forth. I needed to be there with her, or I needed to show it on a video. As I said in my other video, number 19, the other reason why your Q-snaps will be loose like that is if your clips are really loose. You've had them for a while, you've stuffed a bunch of folded fabric under there and stretched them out. I do that all the time. If they get really loose, then the clip itself will start to slide. It's not that it's not tight in your Q-snap, it's that this clip is loose and it's sliding. So you can buy replacement clips, or you can just buy new Q-snaps. I've run them through the dishwasher as well with the heat setting, the sanitize high heat setting at the end. And that shrinks them up a little bit. Not quite as much as when you very first buy them, but it does help a little bit. Anyway, I hope that if your Q-snaps are all loose in there, that helps, because I can't stitch like that. That would drive me insane if my Q-snap was constantly doing this. I have had a problem where every time I flip it over, it slides down. But then as soon as I flip it back, it's right back up where it needs to be, because I think it's catching on the edge of the slip, and that's what holds it. Okay, second thing was I decided to do the Linen and Threads stitch along. If you go to linenandthreads.com, it's a free stitch along. They do one every year. This year it's a Quaker sampler, and it intrigued me, so I decided to do that. I'll show you what it looks like first. It's a mystery stitch along, so we don't know what the whole thing will look like. They just send out a little bit at a time. It's a 12-month stitch along. This is January section. I'm sure you've seen it. A lot of people are doing it. Mine is on 40 count Alabaster linen. This is Belle Soie silk in Blue Lagoon, and this is both Blue Lagoon, just two different dye lots that were very different. I like this darker one better. I think I'm going to go to my LNS, the Craft Center of Fine Stitchery in Salt Lake City. I'll be at a retreat in Salt Lake this weekend, so I'm going to stop there, and is where you can actually look at it and I need to find another color similar to that that's really dark blue, the dark and light variegation. And then this is Silken Colors Alpine Grasses. And then I actually did the letters in it's Gloriana in the navy. And I might just buy some more Gloriana in the navy to do I'd like most of the piece to be in this really dark overdyed blue. So maybe if I can't find a Blue Lagoon in that color, I could get some in the navy that's closer to that. Anyway, free year-long stitch along, linenandthreads.com if you're interested. But what that came up with, it was a lot of people are doing it all in one color. And my friend Becca, her channel is My Stitchy Home. She and I are both going to be doing it, as well as I think my friend Colette, the Highway Stitcher, is also doing it. Anyway, Becca and I were talking about how do you figure out, if you're going to do it all in one color, how do you figure out how much floss you need? Or if you're going to do it in a couple different colors like I'm doing here, how do you know how much floss to buy? And that is such a hard thing. I did some research on the internet, and I finally came across a site that was talking about how you could use math to figure out how much you're going to use on a project. So I did that method to figure out how much floss to buy for this. And I thought I'd share that with you. I should have written down what website it was. I had looked at 4 or 5 websites that day trying to figure out how much floss to use, and now I don't remember what website I was at. I'm sorry. But they were talking about what you need to do is sit down and stitch 100 stitches on the project that you're going to do, on the count of fabric that you're going to use, with the kind of floss that you're going to use, with however many strands you're going to use. You really need to sit down and do first a test run of 100 stitches where you measure how much floss it took you to stitch 100 stitches. I'm going to tell you the calculations I went through, and you're going to think, oh, I know, I'll just buy as many skeins as Brenda said she was going to buy. Please don't do that. You have to do your test patch of 100 stitches. There are so many variables. How many strands you're going to use, how much of a tail you leave when you stitch, when you start and end, how big your fabric count is going to change how big your X's are, which is going to change your floss usage, how tight you pull your stitches. There are so many variables. You need, I can't say this enough times, you need to do your own 100 stitch test, okay? Just sit down and do it. It takes like a half an hour. Just do it. So that's what I did. I got the pattern out, I got the fabric, the floss I was going to use, and I did 100 stitches and measured how much floss that took me. I'm on 40 count fabric, and I'm only using one strand of silk. Silk is fatter than DMC and cotton, and I'm just using one strand. So when I did 100 stitches, it took me 25 inches of one strand of silk to do 100 stitches. Okay, so this particular stitch along, linen and thread stitch along, is 244 stitches by 244 stitches. So 244 times 244 is 59,536. So if this piece was completely full coverage edge to edge, it would have 59,536 stitches in it. This piece is not full coverage, and we'll come back to that at the end. Remember that. So I need to make if it was full coverage, I would need to make 59,536 stitches. Well, I know that it takes 25 inches to make 100 stitches. So if I take 59,536 divided by 100, that's 595.36. So I need 595 and a little bit 25-inch pieces of floss to make it if it was full coverage. Well, if you just take 595.36 times 25 inches, then you get 14,884 inches of one strand of floss. That's how much I would need if it was full coverage to stitch the whole thing. Well, you don't usually buy floss in inches, you usually buy it in yards. So I took 14,884 and divided by 3, that gives you 413 yards. Well, that's 413 yards of one single strand, and you usually buy floss in several strands come together, right? You can either buy, cotton usually comes with 6 strands, silk comes in 12 strands sometimes, or sometimes 6. You know what I mean. Let's pull out a skein. All right, this is Belle Soie silk. It is a 12-stranded silk. That means that this piece of floss separates into 12 strands. 12. There really are 12 in there. DMC, a piece of this, only separates into 6. So you need to be aware of what you're using. Okay. So 14,884 inches makes 413 yards. So I need 413 yards of floss of single strand, but I'm using 12-stranded silk. So 413 yards divided by 12 is 34.41 yards of floss. If you're using 6-stranded floss, then you need to divide by 6. For me, that's 34.41 yards of floss. This Belle Soie silk that I'm using comes in 5-yard skeins. So if I take my 34.41 divided by 5, it's 4 point something something. So 5 skeins, no, 7, sorry, 34 and some divided by 5 is 6 and some, which I'm just rounding up to 7 skeins. So in my case, I would need 7 skeins of 12-stranded silk floss, and I'm only using one strand at a time. I'm only stitching with one strand. That's if it was full coverage. Remember how we mentioned that at the beginning. I have no idea what percentage this piece is going to be. Becca guessed around 50% of the actual fabric is covered. I'm guessing it's somewhere between 50 and 75% of the fabric is covered with stitches. So I'm just going to go with 7 skeins to be on the safe side, because that will be plenty of floss for me, because we know it's not full coverage, right? And I'm just going to say it one more time. You cannot go off my calculation. You have to sit down and do your 100 stitch test and do the math yourself if you really want to know. If you contact me later and tell me I did as many skeins as you did and I ran out of floss, it's going to make me really, really sad. So I only showed you that to show you what the process would be as an example. Please don't go off my calculation thinking that you're going to have plenty of floss, because maybe you stitch differently than me and you may not end up with enough floss. So do your own test and do your own math. All right. I'm also thinking about joining, I'm pretty sure I will, the Modern Folk website, Modern Folk Embroidery website, also does a stitch along every year. Theirs is also where you get part of it in your email every month. And this one does cost money. The Linen and Threads is free. This one costs money. He's in Australia, I believe. But he shows you at the beginning what the whole piece is going to look like. You only get part of it every month, but you know from the beginning what it's going to look like. And this is what his looks like. His name is Jacob de Graaf. And I just think it's gorgeous. I love this tree of life in the middle. And then the houses. Oh, it's so pretty. And he's calling it a family patchwork sampler. Modern Folk Embroidery Stitch Along 2020. I did purchase the pattern. The day that I purchased it, I used PayPal's, and then it converts automatically to English dollars. Not English dollars, American dollars. It was around $25 the day that I bought it, the exchange rate that day. And I ordered some Mrs. Sedas silk. I will put a link to that in the description box below. I think it's MISSUS SEDUS, Mrs. Sedas silk. But I'll link that in the description box. She's in Spain. You can buy silk from her, but I'm waiting for it to come from Spain. And I ordered her, SuperNova. It's a gorgeous orange and yellow mix. And I'm going to do almost all of this in that, except for this tree in the middle I'm going to do, and I'll have to find a lime green color that looks good with the other one. So it's going to be a very citrusy blend of colors. And then I'll do just a little itty bit of something here and there with that green out here as well to kind of tie it in. But I won't be able to start that until the silk gets here. Okay, on to whips. Finishes. Actually, finishes are first. For my Perpetual Calendar by SamSarah that you can see right there. As you know, one of my mania pieces was to make a holiday card for it for January. This is from Bent Creek Winter Arches pattern. I used that and adapted it and made it into the right size to match this calendar. I also added this little orange and black strip along here and the orange and the black and white checkerboard around the edge to match all of the other cards. They all have that same border. And then I had to make the winter arch pattern bigger. I think I had to make it wider to fit. The house and the path are exactly the same as the pattern. Anyway, I finished that. I just need to glue it to this card. I use spray adhesive to glue them on. That's how I glued all the other ones. The directions shows you how to make a jig out of a file folder so that you can glue it on in this, so that they'll all be glued in exactly the same place so that they all match. But I was very happy to finish that. That was fun. And I already showed you I did the autumn Plum Street Sampler Autumn Salt Box, and I did this one, the second one, number 2, which is, I believe, a barn. And I showed it that I was finished, but now I fully finished it into this cute pillow. It was, as you may recall, this project has been in Craft Prison forever, this basic sewing kit that I did in my EGA guild, where we made a box. This is the box top. I showed that to you at my whip parade at the end of the year. And I decided I didn't want to do the rest of the projects. And we were doing a different technique on each little small that went inside. A pin scissor fob, a little scissor pocket or a needle book pocket, a needle roll. Those are all done. I showed you those in my whip parade, and I decided not to do the other things that they were going to do. That was years and years ago. It's been sitting ever since. And I decided it just needed one more thing. It needed a pin cushion pillow. So I chose this Plum Street pattern and made it into a pin cushion pillow. And this fabric on the back matches this fabric that I've used in several of the other things. I just chose a pattern that had similar colors, and I thought this one would work well, and it did. And all of the pieces that I made have a scripture on them, so I added a scripture to this one. It runs across the bottom and up the side. It says, "My kindness shall not depart from thee," Isaiah 54:10, and then it has my initials in the year. But I love how it turned out. I think it's darling. I filled it full of walnut shells, so it's nice and heavy, has a heavy weight to it. So very excited. That is out of craft prison and done. One of those done. Okay, now we'll go move on to whips. I already showed you my linen and threads. Stitch along. Oh, this is part of haul. I can't forget that. Oh, and this piece I was showing you to demonstrate the stand. This is Day and Night by Long Dog Samplers. It was a Mania start, and I worked on the church steeple right here, and there's this little patch of grass back here with a sheep. It's darling. This is 40 count. It'll be in the description box below. This is Picture This plus 40 count fabric. It's a green. I just can't remember what it's called. Might be Valor. I can't remember. Check the description box. I cut and paste most of the description box from video to video that lists all my whips in it and all the details. So I know I have it right in there. This is what it looks like. So I'm over here working on this little bit of a steeple and this little bit of grass with a sheep. And then it will have a pine tree on it. I love this piece. It says, "Day and night, sun and moon, air and light, everyone must have and none can buy." So I worked on that. My goal, I told you I'd share my January goals with you in my last video and then didn't bring the book down, which I did today. Good. My goal on that one was 8 hours during the month of January. I work on it every Thursday, so I've been trying to put 2 hours in every Thursday night on that piece. And so far I have done that. So I'm pretty sure I will meet my goal on that one. Did not work on that one. This is my Sunday piece, Band of Roses, that I'm doing with Linda in California. And anyone else who wants to join us. It is Cross Stitch Antiques, Headmistress Sampler Series, Band of Roses 1845 Antique Sampler. It will look like this when it's finished. My January goal for this one was to have the top row of alphabet done and the border. You know how much I hate borders. This just has one border right across the top. And that's it. There is no other border. So I'm almost done with the border. So I took the pattern off. I made it to the end of the alphabet, and this is the end of the border. And then it has these little, I don't know if you can see them, kind of a teal colored dot at the end of every leaf. I'm working on those. So I just have to put those in all the way back across to the other side, and then I will have met my goal for January. The antique sampler didn't have anything right here. It was kind of a big empty space, and the lady who charted it from the antique, reproduced it, put her initials right here. But my initials will not fit right here because it's BM, and B and M are both kind of big letters. So I'm going to have to decide whether I want to put my initials in right here. I would like to. I just need to maybe find a different font that would fit in there better. I'll be working on that. See how there's kind of a big, this border is almost under the frame and there's a big empty space right here. But I have finished all the letters across the top. Next month I'll probably try and get this row done. I work on that on Sunday evenings. And it has been very enjoyable. It's on 40 count fabric as well. I want to say it's vintage maritime white, I think. With the called for DMC, except for all of that dark blue lettering on the top, I think it called for 823. I wasn't pleased with the coverage of the DMC of one strand on 40 count, so I switched to a Vera Soie color number 1416. It's almost exactly the same as 823 because that extra fat, the silk is a little fatter than cotton and it's covering a lot better. I really like it. All right, the words to live by, mystery monthly stitch along that I was participating in last year, ended in January. We got our last section on the 15th of January. And I didn't do November's piece because I was trying to finish several pieces by the end of the year. So I didn't work on December's. So I just have December's and January's left to stitch, hoping to finish that by the end of the year. That was the goal on this one, is to finish it by the end of January. Not by the end of the year. By the end of January, this should be done. And that is my Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of focus piece, is usually my mania piece assigned to that month, was to finish first finish the pillow, which I did right there. Then finish the calendar card. That was my mania piece assigned to January, which I did. So now my Monday, Wednesday, Friday piece for the rest of the month will be to finish up this words to live by. And then that one will be finished. Well, okay, not fully finished, but the stitching will be finished. All right, Victorian Charm is the one I work on for 30 minutes every day. It's I do a 30-minute challenge piece every day where I try and, when I sit down to stitch, I pick this one up first and work on it for the first 30 minutes. I had someone ask me, oh, I should have written your name down, sorry. If I only work 30 minutes and then stop, and I will do at least 30 minutes. Sometimes I get in a groove and I'll end up doing an hour instead of just 30 minutes. Or if I know I'm going to have several hours to stitch and I'm trying to get more progress done on it, I might work for an hour. I don't usually work on it for more than an hour. But here is Victorian Charm. It's coming along slowly but surely at 30 minutes a day, working on all these flowers right here in the front. And I put these 2 pillars in. As soon as I finish all of this stitching, then I'll come up and finish this green part up here, and then I'll finish this brown sidewalk that goes across. My goal for this one was 8 hours. I just wanted to get a total of 8 hours in during the month of January, which I'm close to already. So that won't be hard. But I really wanted to have it finished by the end of January. So we'll see how close we get to that. That is a dimensions kit on the kit fabric that it came with, and I'm using the kit floss that it came with. The pattern fell out. Can't lose the pattern. Arcade is also a long dog sampler. R-Kade. I think it looks like a forest of trees. I love it. So love this pattern. This is my Tuesday project. This is where that is at. I finished the chair on this side and this flower in a pot that matches this one over here. and added this candlestick and this little flower here. Working on this border across here. When I get that much done, I think I'm going to move down. There's an alphabet running across right here. So I can't wait to work on that. This is 40 count conifer, picture this plus conifer, and it is Silks for You silks from Australia. I ordered these from Australia. I love the way, oh, I ordered 2 colors from her. So I'm using the second color as this viney border that runs across the middle, and to do all the hearts. All the hearts will be in that color, and then this viney border. And the rest of it is just that other color. I'm not fussy cutting. I'm just letting it fall where it falls. If if the strand I just ended on the brown end or the green end or the yellow end of the floss, then the next piece I pick up to use, I'll try and pick one end of the floss or the other that matches a little better what I just ended. But other than that, I'm not worrying about where the colors lay. The only time I do fussy cut is these. There's a saying that goes across this strip right here. I'm cutting out all of the brown when I work on these letters because I want the letters to show up, and I'll do the same thing on the alphabet that runs across right here. I'm not going to have any of the brown parts in the letters because it makes them too hard to see and too hard to read. Loving that. That was also my goal on that one, was 8 hours in January. I'm trying to do 2 hours every Tuesday, which so far I have done. Oh, I was going to say, and that's all my whips, but it's not. This is Peaceable Kingdom by Catherine Theron. It was a class piece. You can only get the pattern if you take the class from her. I was about here on the alphabet, and I was able to finish the rest of the alphabet and 6 crows and a fox on that row. I work on this on Sundays. My goal for this was 8 hours in the month of January. I wanted to work on it, Saturdays. This is the Saturday piece. I wanted to work on it 2 hours every Saturday, which I have done so far. And if I didn't get it done on Saturday, then I caught up later on Sunday or Monday. I was able to get caught up. Because sometimes Saturdays are crazy. But I'm very happy to have that alphabet band done. Now I can start on the 3 scenes that go across the bottom. I don't know what you call those. It will look like this. So now that I have finished that alphabet and these crows and fox, I'll probably start on this one right here. This section right here is all DMC, but it's 1/1 for that whole full coverage section. That's going to take a while, but it'll be fun. I'm excited. And then this picture doesn't show the border finished, but it will look like this, like the rest of the border. I work on that on Saturdays because the directions are complicated and I have to be able to think hard to follow the directions. The directions are very good. It's just a complicated piece with lots of specialty stitches. I generally have more time to stitch on Saturdays, so I have 3 Saturday projects. That's when I also do my full coverage pieces. So this is Disneyland by Neni Design, N-E-N-I. I try and get 2 hours on this every Saturday, which is about 2 10x10 squares. So my goal was 8 hours in January on this, but I think in February the goal will be 8 squares, not 8 hours. Because sometimes squares take a little longer and sometimes squares take a little less long, depending on how many times you have to change colors. But I was able to do several squares across here. I think I've done 3 Saturdays since my last video, so I did 6 squares. It's coming along very nicely. We've got the top of the Matterhorn right here, and then we're starting into It's a Small World. This is the It's a Small World building. So that's been a lot of fun. Moving right along. That is 40 count Picture This Plus Dwarf, and I'm using one strand. This is the called for DMC. One strand of floss over 2 fabric threads. And then my other full coverage piece is the stitching shelf from Heaven and Earth Designs. It's a piece of artwork by, I believe her name is Amy Stewart. And I was able to finish, I did 6 squares on this as well since my last video, and I was able to finish this row. This is a vase sitting on top of a table of some kind next to that purple book. And then there's a lady sitting here. Oh, sorry, notifications like crazy. There's a lady sitting here stitching, and out the window are a bunch of hot air balloons, and this vase on a pedestal is right next to her. So I'm excited to see some more coming. It's so fun to see what shows up in that one. Next, I will start up here and come down and do another row. And that is 25 count even weave fabric, 1 strand of the called for DMC over 1 fabric thread. And that is all of my whips. Okay, let's do haul first. Haul and mail. I bought another bag from Rika, House of Stitch and Stash. It is beautiful. I love it. And I have actually ordered another one that will be here eventually. This one, I can't remember if she called this the Jane Austen bag or the Pride and Prejudice bag. It's one or the other. You can see all the people dancing, Regency era dancers. And then it's this beautiful fabric that has all of these houses on it. Big, huge homes from the rich people. But I love it. Thank you, Rika. So nice. Can't wait to put a project in it and use it. I got some Stitchy Kindness mail. Kathy in Indiana sent me some patterns. Thank you, Kathy. That was so nice of you. This is Barn Dance by The Work Basket. I just think it's so cute. I love that you can see all the animals in the barn. This is Elizabeth's Needlework Designs Christmas Tree Cottage. That one's beautiful as well. This is Nora Corbett Red Kitten. And this one is Bright Needle Libby Q. So cute. Thank you, Kathy. I can't wait to start on some of those, and my daughters too. And then Linda in California sent me this Afghan fabric that you can stitch on. It's kind of a cream color. You can see the pattern in it there. You stitch inside the squares that are woven into it. Beautiful. I've seen so many beautiful projects on these. Stony Creek magazine series has done several Afghan series on these. So she asked if we'd be interested. She was going through her stash and asked if we'd be interested in this fabric, either me or my daughters. And I said, yes, send it over. So thank you, Linda. That was so nice of you. And I purchased a pattern from Roveras. I thought this one was so cute. Happiness is Walking on the Beach. Roveras has an Etsy shop. Cute, cute patterns. I also ordered a scissor fob from her, but it's not here yet. I'll show it to you when it comes. And then I also printed out the free Emerald City pattern from Al Forest Embroidery. It's free on their website. Their website is in Russian, I believe, so you do have to hit your little Google Translate button so you can translate the website, but it's in several sections and it is a free downloadable pattern. I just think it's so cute. And I noticed that Mrs. Sedas Silks in Spain has a conversion. She's done a set of silks to do this pattern. I'm probably going to buy those. I thought they were so pretty. She also had a set of silks already dyed and ready to go for hoity-toity, Long Dog Sampler hoity-toity, that were all the colors were gorgeous. All right, I think that's all of my haul and stitchy kindness. For old finishes, since it's January, I thought I'd show you this one. This is Bent Creek Snappers. It was a monthly series. You had to buy the little leaflet for each month. There are little snaps on every one somewhere, and then snaps in the border as well. Can't remember if I showed you this one already. I may have. August, September, October, November, December. That was fun. The little leaflets look like this. This is June Zooms. They came with the snaps. I did it on the called for count of fabric because the snaps needed to be the right size. I don't know what color fabric this is though. It's linen. I was thinking that this might work on the banding that you can buy now. Mine was just a piece of linen that I serged the edges, but I'm not sure what size banding comes in, but if you could get banding wide enough, this would be perfect on banding. Then you wouldn't have to worry about finishing the edges. You could just hang it from a Belle pull hanger hardware. That was fun. I did that a long time ago. Probably at least 10 years ago, around there. And then for what I wish I was stitching on, this is a Dimensions Gold kit called Lost No More. I believe the artwork, yes, is by Greg Olson, the original artwork painting. They adapted a cross stitch from it. I love this piece. I think I'm going to start this for Easter, but I think I'm going to start it several weeks before Easter, kind of that pre-Easter season leading up to Easter. I believe in the Catholic religion that would be the Lent period, where you're kind of getting ready for Easter and thinking about Easter. And so I think I'm going to start this February, March-ish. No, that would be March-ish, wouldn't it? Beginning of March somewhere. And work on it leading up to Easter. And then keep working on it after that. It's going to take several years to get it done. It's Dimensions Gold kits are almost always full coverage. But oh, it's pretty. It's a kit. It has an off-white Ada and all the threads. I bought this. I don't even know if you can still get this anymore. I bought it probably 10 or 15 years ago at my local Michael's, I think. Can't remember. But that's what I wish I was working on today. I'm excited to start that. Okay, I think that's everything. I hope you're having a fabulous January. We had a completely overcast, no sun at all, very low clouds. I'm hoping it's not a inversion. I hate it when we have the inversion for several weeks, but we do have snow on the ground, so it could be. It was cold today, but not as cold. Somebody, I can't remember if it was Instagram or one of the viewers on here, said they were in Canada and it was -47 that night. And I was just like, oh, okay, we have snow on the ground, but it doesn't get that cold. We're usually in the 20s at night. And quite often we're in the 30s during the day. The snow doesn't stay on the ground forever. It usually melts before the next snowstorm comes. But I hope you're having a fabulous January with lots of stitching time. I will be at a retreat, as I mentioned, this weekend in Salt Lake City with my stitching friends there. So hopefully I will get a lot of stitching done and not mostly talking. And it's also, this weekend is the 24 Hours of Cross Stitch Marathon, the first one for this year. I will not be stitching 24 hours at a stretch. I can't too old to stay up all night anymore. I will be team sleep. I will be doing trying to get 24 hours of cross stitch in just over the 3 days. I believe it's Friday, Saturday. I think it's the 24th, 26th to the 26th, which if I remember correctly, it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So somewhere in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I need to get 24 hours of stitching in, which, since I'll be at a retreat, is possible. I'm actually taking part of the day off Thursday and Friday to go. So we'll have to see how that goes. So I'm excited for that. And I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.